Now, there is no doubt about it that Lucasfilm is by far one of the worst divisions over at the Walt Disney Company for multiple factors that we've gone over multiple times, by the way. One of the biggest examples is the fact that Kathleen Kennedy is still hired over at that company by Disney as the president of Lucasfilm, as the producer of all the Star Wars projects moving ahead. Whether it's movies, TV shows, doesn't matter, Kathleen Kennedy is running it all, and that's exactly why she is looking to extend her contract until 2027. We'll talk more about that later on in the week. This is Mike Zero. Subscribe if you're new and like this video to see future updates. You can also follow me at Mike01. I thank you all so very much for the great and kind support. So ever since the Acolyte episode 8 dropped on Disney Plus and failed to reverse any kind of damage that took place for the previous 7 episodes, which have been nothing more than a disaster, we know that the viewership has hit an all-time low for the Acolyte. We know that the reviews of the Acolyte have not universally improved. In fact, if anything, it made things worse, because more and more people are now beginning to tune into the Acolyte now that all 8 episodes are up, and people are giving it a shot, and yeah, well, they're not impressed at all as well. Now, what's interesting about this has a lot to do with the back and forth going on between the Walt Disney Company and Lucasfilm in the midst of the firing of Leslye Headland from several Lucasfilm projects, along with other projects under Disney, where she was in the actual process of getting on board of multiple Marvel Studios projects. We'll talk more about that. However, when it comes down to Leslye Headland and her response to everything that's been going on after the firing situation and after the debut of the Acolyte episode 8 that only made the criticism worse by fans, this is where things get interesting. Now, with the Acolyte finale now officially on Disney Plus and failed to reverse the backlash, those like Leslye Headland and Kathleen Kennedy have been engaging in serious damage control over the series. Now, one major development happening now involves more to do with Leslye Headland and that firing situation, and that indeed took place behind the scenes by Bob Iger as part of his cost-cutting measures and the severe viewership decline. Now, Leslye recently delivered the following: "I knew going into this that I would be dealing with disgruntled fans that really don't have a clue with what Star Wars is truly all about. Looking back to when I was writing this story, I really wanted to cater this to new fans, you know, because traditional fans can be very toxic in nature. That can be very problematic. Many keep asking me about other projects with Lucasfilm, and I currently have no comment on that at all, and I refuse to go into detail about that. I think the growing problem within the film industry is that in these fandoms that are so large, you tend to have many misogynists that make so much noise and convince others that either a show or a movie is not performing well or the writing and directing is bad, when in truth, it's not. This sends a bad message to the studios that don't know better really and just take that noise as it is many times. I will be upfront that I am disgusted with how fans reacted to our cameos in the final episode with how we threw in Yoda and Darth Plagueis. First off, inserting Yoda doesn't devalue the character as many claim. It only makes him stronger. It makes him significant in the galaxy than any other fan would understand. I just think the loud criticism that we got was from a small minority of fans that only convinced others to think a certain way, you know? Had those loud inflammatory comments been quiet and suppressed, I think everyone virtually would have enjoyed and loved the show. So guys, let me just stop here quick for one moment before I move on. She goes on to say that the Acolyte made Yoda a stronger figure, a stronger character, a more relevant character in the grand scheme of Star Wars, which is just completely untrue. We all saw the two factors. Either A, it makes Yoda look like he was in on the cover-up of the Jedi and the evil rising, the dark side rising, or B, it makes Yoda look very dumb and very much out of place as a Jedi who really just doesn't care about what's going on. Either of the two. It really just puts that character in a very odd place, and that's why, by the way, even Lucasfilm themselves did not want Yoda to come into this show. We talked about that and how Leslye Headland said that she really pushed for Yoda to actually make its way into this actual season. Now, moving on, she goes on to continue. Many keep claiming that our viewership is suffering or that the reviews are extremely negative, and you just can't take that seriously anymore. You just can't look at viewership levels and engagement along with negative reviews and criticism, because there is always a silent majority. Always, 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 of fans that are afraid to speak their mind. And this is something that I have been challenging Disney about, and really trying to make them understand. I will be upfront and honest that many projects I had agreed to, I am not moving ahead with those anymore. And also, many keep asking me about Season 2 for Acolyte. All I can say is stop asking me about that right now. I really have no comment on that as well at this moment. I think if you really want a Season 2, even if it's not going to come from me, then everyone has to be positive and show some love for the show like never before, because that's how this business works. I support DEI, and how DEI was never about an agenda, as many claim. Anyone claiming that Disney is all about an agenda or DEI is about this or that holds their own narrative and their own image, and it just gets very exhausting trying to explain this to everyone to understand. So there's that moment again where Leslye Headland is saying DEI is not an agenda, but it is an agenda. We all know it, guys, right? We know that diversity, equity, and inclusion, that's what it stands for, in case some of you are still questioning yourselves, what does that mean? But looking at DEI, this is the most damaging effect on everything. And you guys know exactly what I'm talking about. It's not just movies and television, it is everywhere. It's in businesses, it's in every corner of the earth at this point. Everywhere you go, DEI is becoming more and more relevant, and it's destroying every single industry out there. And that's why the film industry has really been very unimpressive. And look, if you guys want to support something that does not really engage in any kind of an agenda, go check out Twisters. I'm sure that you guys saw what the director had to say about the movie, and it was very controversial coming from many of the crazies out there in the Hollywood bubble. But that is one movie to support if you support something that is not agenda driven. Just putting that out there, by the way. But The Acolyte really is the epitome of really doubling down on DEI and then complaining about those that are against DEI, and how they use that as a strategy above proper storytelling, proper character development. We all saw this, especially, by the way, in episode 3. Then they did damage control and said, oh no, that episode's not about this or that at all. So Leslye Headland, I think, is just coping at this point. We already talked about how she was laid off from multiple Lucasfilm projects and literally removed from various projects as a co-writer and a director. This ranged from specific Star Wars movies centered on the High Republic, as well as others that were going to pretty much expand the Acolyte. This ranged from spin-offs to how she's no longer commenting on a Season 2 now. We already know that Season 2's in shambles. We talked about this as well. What's interesting about that, though, is she was also supposed to be involved in Marvel projects centered around spin-offs catered to the Agatha series and the upcoming Ironheart show. And that's also no longer moving forward. Disney wants nothing to do with Leslye Headland anymore because even she is too crazy for Disney to handle. That's how bad she is. That's why I always said that she's more severe than Kathleen Kennedy. She's more severe than any other creator or producer or whatever have you that has been under Disney's wing. So overall, I would like to hear what you all have to say about this below in the comments, and if you guys did enjoy the content for today, make sure to drop a thumbs up on this video to support the channel, and I will catch you guys later.